Let's go ahead and kick off the webinar. My name is Eric Elliott, and I'm the Advanced Hunter Education Coordinator with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm excited to start the 2025 Advanced Hunter Education webinar series with a topic that's near and dear to my heart and our presenters' hearts. And it's hopefully a topic that can make hunting more productive and enjoyable. But before we meet our speakers tonight, I want to let you know their backgrounds and a little bit of inside scoop on why I chose them. And I purposefully did not choose professional dog trainers. These guys are just regular people. And one of the reasons why I chose them is I want their perspective, and a perspective that fits more with the whole entire advanced hunter education theme. And as you probably know, our theme is to make hunting more accessible and doable for the average person. So what we want to do is we want to take the mystery out of hunting. And the whole idea is regular people like Georgia, Joel, Lon, and me can do this. Really, anyone can. So let's learn together and get after it. So Georgia and Joel, they're both hunter education instructor. They are father and a daughter team. And if you could, Georgia, tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe also just a quick hunting memory, a favorite hunting memory you have with your Yeti.
My name's Georgia. I am 24 years old. I am a student at Cal Poly Humboldt studying wildlife. Yeti is 3 years old, and probably I don't know what's about. It's hard to choose a favorite memory, but one that stands out to me was, I think, his first pheasant hunt. We knocked down a pheasant, and I think one dog had it, and then I got another scent on another bird. Dropped the pheasant took off running, and we all scattered around, grid search, trying to find this bird. And Yeti's young, so we're really not relying on him much. And then we're kind of just calling it quits because we can't find the bird. And I remember he had his nose in the ground, and we're like, what is this dog doing? He pulls out this pheasant. There's no way.
Love it. And how about you, Joel? How long have you been working with dogs? And tell me maybe a favorite memory you have of working with dogs.
We've had dogs, hunting dogs, ever since I started hunting. Between short hairs and labs. We recently switched over to labs because we've been doing a lot. The kids have all gotten to the age, and we've gotten back into waterfowl a lot. So we switched over and started using labs more than we have short hairs. Favorite memories, I mean, just being out there with the dog.
Yeah.
The kid, watching the dogs work, doing what they love to do. And, also, once again, helping us recover game that may not have been recovered, and find game that, we obviously can't find with our noses.
Love it. And how about you, Lon? Tell us a little bit about how long you've hunted with Lottie, and then also maybe a favorite hunting memory with Lottie.
Well, I picked up Lottie about 6.5 years ago. I mostly hunt upland. I'll hunt ducks about 3 or 4 times a year. And as far as a favorite story, I'm kind of like Joel. I just kind of, everything kind of gels when you're out there in the field, and you're working with the dogs. I do kind of think that the first time that I finally realized that I should always trust the nose of my dog was kind of when a light went on,
Yeah.
When that became clear that they can smell a lot better than I can. So I just trust their nose.
Yeah. I don't know why it takes us so long to figure that out, Lon, but I've had that too. It's like, this dog's acting like this for a reason, and maybe I should trust it for once in my life. So Now, everybody says that a picture says 1,000 words. Well, we're going to be showing a lot of pictures tonight, and then also be showing some videos tonight. And the whole idea is that these videos will speak volumes and actually show everybody what these dogs are capable of. And what I'm going to have throughout the course of this webinar is actually our presenters narrate the video. So Lon, answer the question, why hunt with dogs? Set this video up for us and tell us what's going on here, and then maybe narrate what we're going to be seeing.
Well, what we're looking at is two dogs. My dog and another man's short hair are both pointing the same bird. And the caption is, why hunt dogs? Well, we would have walked right by this bird most likely if the dogs hadn't, picked the scent of that bird up 100 yards from us. So why hunt with dogs? We're going to find more game, and hopefully we're going to be able to retrieve more game because of the dogs also. And then let's see, as this thing starts, it shows me walking up in front of the dogs. My role is to flush that bird and hopefully shoot it. I think I got lucky in this one and knocked the bird down. So
you're saying in that video, those dogs, they had never worked together, right?
no,
And
it was just a guy that
teamed up.
he parked in the lot the same time we did, and we got to talking. It was a young guy by himself, and he had a dog, and we said, hey, fall in with us. And the dogs pretty much just do their own thing, and as long as they're not, fighting or anything, it doesn't really hurt to have that extra dog in there.
I love it. And we'll be talking a little bit more later on in the webinar about the advantages of working with other people and learning from them, not only on dog training, but learning different tips and tactics from other hunters. So let's go with you, Georgia. Answering the why question. Why would we want to hunt with dogs? So tell us what's going on in this video and narrate us through this.
So prior to the video being taken, we were in a rice blind, and then Yeti has a designated place that he lays there until I release him. So the bird comes in, we knock it down, and he kind of sits up to watch where it goes as I tell to him to mark where it lands. And so I release him, he goes after it, and finally pull my phone out. Because I always forget to do that. And
Yes.
so he is coming back. I'm telling him to hold it. So he remembers to come all the way to me, and he does not release that bird until I tell him to. And then he gets tangled up in the decoys. So, okay, what is this?
I like that shake. It seemed like they like to shake pretty close to you, I'm pretty sure. Love it.
The other thing too, with that particular video, that spec he was still alive, and who knows how long it was taking us to get in and out of the blind, chase him down possibly. I mean, those dogs can make it through the water so fast. And in a rice blind, it's not, you don't have the cover. But you go hunt some of the other, refuges or, natural pieces, and those birds will get into a clump of tules, and without a nose, that's lost bird a lot of times.
Really, really good point. So let's talk a few more reasons to hunt with dogs. And Joel, tell us the connection your family has with your dogs.
Oh, the boys love the dogs. The kids love the dogs. Every time we go hunting, we have a dog with us. I mean, that's just part of the group. Whether they're good at what they do or if they're learning to be good at what they do. But it's the same with the kids too. All different stages of the animals and the dogs, we all go, and that's part of it. I mean, you can see there now they're pillows.
I love it.
This year at the duck club, That's where the dog is, and that's where Wyatt's laying his head.
Yeah. So how important is it that the dog and you bond? Tell me a little bit about this. Everybody talks about it, but can you describe it? How important is that?
It's very important because you're going to want that dog to work for you for the rest of his life and the rest of the
Mm,
time you're. And the kids can run the dogs if I'm not there, but that dog is constantly looking for whoever has started them and worked them the most. It's not because they're scared to not work for anyone else. It's just they depend on the number, whoever their view of the number one is. And when that happens, they constantly, I mean, if there's a bad situation and I need to call him, he will come find me instantly, even though the two kids are, playing, they're throwing sticks down, there's a snake there or something. You call that dog and he's hunting you up, coming, hey, what do you need? And, they're willingly doing
right.
it for you because they really appreciate the fact, that you started them from the get-go.
Yeah,
Bonding with them is
absolutely.
very important from a pup.
Yes. And then how about you, Lon? Your perspective on, I think your dog is for sure part of your household. How important is it for that dog to learn some basic house rules? So, are there rules that you have your dog follow?
Yes. Just like the dog in the picture there, my dog has the run of the house. Um, it sleeps on the floor next to me in my bedroom, and but it doesn't mean that they can't have some rules in the house. And this one's kind of a safety rule. Whenever we're coming in or out of the house through any of the entry exit doors, I make the dog wait until I give it the okay to go, and that could be a safety thing, because if you get a doorbell ring and they're dropping off a package and you open up the door and the dog takes off and gets into the road, or something like that. So the dog at least knows it's not a free for all. And I know in talking with Joel and Georgia, prior, they mentioned, you pull up to a place to hunt, and when you open up that dog kennel, that crate, you don't want the dog to come barreling out of there. It's got to be a uh, just a calm, put the leash on them, and that way it sort of sets the stage for how the rest of the day is going to be.
I agree. So there's some basic boundaries, and so you put it in the lingo of like um, kids. I mean, I think we've all probably seen kids that have the rule of the roost, and they're going to a grocery store and they're just throwing stuff in the cart, and it becomes a nightmare. Yet you also see kids that have some basic boundaries and some ground rules, and to me, it seems like those are the happiest kids. That's Would you say that's probably the same for dogs?
Well, I think the dogs, they look to that direction. You
Yes.
talk about bonding with a person. I think that's very important. I'm the one that worked my dog every morning for 5 minutes for 4 months, I think, without a break, and a little bit in the afternoon. So I'm the one that the dog looks to for direction. And
Yes.
just like what Joel had said, the dog, when it's in the field, it's looking to one person, and that's the person that it's bonded with.
I agree. So let's talk a little bit more about advantages to hunting with dogs. And I used to be I used to solo hunt all the time. And I think there's some advantages to this, but the older I get, the more I enjoy being around people and being around dogs. So for me, hunting with a dog, it adds to the whole entire hunting experience. Um, and yeah, so the slide to the right, this picture off to the right, kind of shows this. This is my son we went out hunting with Lottie and Lon, and it was a tough day hunting. We never fired a shot, but on the other hand, we had a blast. And my son was all smiles that day. And one of the highlights of the day was just watching Lon's dog work and watching that dog's wanting to please Lon. Also, you know, it was obviously doing what its natural instincts were to do and to hunt hard, but it was also, you could see how well attuned it was to Lon. And it was like, I'll do absolutely anything for you, buddy. And so to me, that was a highlight of that hunting trip, even though we never fired a shot. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, guys. So how do you start this adventure? Where do you begin? And I think it might begin with the question of like, what type of dog is best for you? And what type of hunting would you like to do? Or what type of hunting do you currently do? And there's, you know, there's so many multiple categories of hunting dogs, and each dog is designed to help hunters locate, track, and retrieve game in a variety of ways. Examples of dogs, you've got all kinds of different types of dogs, and these dogs are bred to do different things: hound dogs, terriers, cur type dogs, gun dogs. And so I guess it could begin with as simple as, what do I want to hunt? And so how did you make a decision to go from having pointers to going with a lab? Joel, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, pointers are crazy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. We still have pointers, and we always will. We'll always have pointers. We'll always have labs. Our focus recently switched more towards waterfowl and less upland, just due to where we are living and what the kids enjoyed. That's the main reason why we switched over. Short hairs are fantastic. They can go do everything a lab can do, just not as well for waterfowl, in my opinion. Same thing. Labs are not as good at upland as pointing dogs. They can cross over constantly. They're good at doing everything to help and please you and find birds. Their attitude, mentality, and breeding are all differently focused on the tasks that they were designed for.
Yeah. And I think watching any kind of dog, whether it's a hound dog or a pointer, a well-trained dog do what they do best. It's just, there's nothing like it. I remember in my old district, Alpine County, there's used to be a lot of houndsmen, a lot of hound dogs. And I found it absolutely fascinating to watch both the houndsman and the hound dog work. And I was telling these guys before the webinar, after I retire, I'm kicking around the idea of getting some hound dogs. So many variety of dogs and so much to learn. So let's talk about how to get a dog. How do you get a pup? This is just this isn't a hunting dog, but this is our family dog, and you can see the bond that's created just as a little puppy. And so how did you guys get your dogs? And I know there's not a perfect set answer, but I think it would be good to hear your perspective. How did you get Lottie, Lon?
Well, once I decided on the breed that I wanted, and that's a little comical too. Years ago, I had seen a video of these German wire-haired pointing dogs, and I thought, man, that's a cool looking dog. So it had always kind of been in the back of my mind, and that was pretty much just what it was based on. It was just the looks of the dog. When I finally decided that, hey, I'm going to get me another hunting dog, I had to decide whether I wanted to go the retrieval route, with a lab or one of the retrieving dogs, or get another pointer like I had my first dog. And the more I studied up on these wire-haired dogs, they were touted to be more of a versatile dog, one that would do everything. They would point, they would retrieve, they were good in water. So I thought, that's what I want to do. So once I decided on that, then I just got on the internet and I brought up the AKC Puppy Finder site, which listed for that breed and other breeds all the registered litters that were available at the time. And luckily, I found one about just 5 miles from our house. So my wife and I made a trip over there. We had already decided that we wanted a female pup, and there were 2 females in a litter of about 10. They got the 2 females out, and they both came up to us and, said hi. And one of them stayed by our feet the whole time we were there, which, I've had people say, let the dog pick you. And I kind of thought that was going to be the case. I noticed the other dog was wandering around and was exploring. It was, getting away from the group. And I kind of wondered, well, maybe the dog isn't too personable. But then the grandson of the guy that had this litter lived on the property, and he was the one that exercised the pups. He took them down to swim every day when he got out of school. He comes walking up, and that dog, went right to him, jumped up on him, and you could see that, the dog really loved that kid. So I thought, that's my dog right there. So that was pretty much based on how I got the dog.
Yeah. How about you, Georgia? Tell us how you got Yeti.
Well, I really enjoy waterfowl hunting, so I knew I wanted a lab. And it was kind of hard to find one that had good bloodlines, and we traced bloodlines. We spent months looking over breedings, and finally we traced one back to one my dad had years ago. That was a good dog. So he's basically said, you can't say no to this. The downside was that the breeders were in Oregon, so we couldn't drive up and go look at them. So we had them send confirmation pictures to us and videos, and we kind of picked one that wasn't totally like the alpha, but wasn't the runt kind of thing. And also basing on confirmation too helped. And that's how I got him, was off pictures.
Yeah. He's such a great dog. I've been in the backcountry with the Sibley family. We took horses in, and I'll never forget Yeti. Yeah, I think that was a long day. I was like probably pushing 25 miles, and Yeti just kept on trucking. I think he could have got 25 more. It's pretty cool.
He did way home though.
So let's talk a little bit about equipment that's needed for a hunting dog. Lon, kind of run us through this slide, these pictures, and tell us what you use.
Well, that pic on the left is my basic training gear. I've got a 30-foot check cord that was on the dog pretty much most of the time as it was a pup. And then at some point, I introduced the dog to the e-collar, and I don't use the check cord anymore. And the e-collar goes on her pretty much every time we're out in the field. Basically, the e-collar is the recall for my dog. When I vibrate her, and it's a vibration just like somebody's phone. She comes looking for me. Mm-hmm. In the center there, we've got the 2 vests for the dog. The one on the right is just a blaze orange chest protector. It kind of keeps places where there's lots of burrs and you got a wire-haired dog, it kind of keeps a lot of the burrs off of her. Can't use it when the temperature gets, up above 65, 70 because she just overheats. On the other hand, that's a thermal vest for when she's waterfowling and she's in the water and it's cold. And then over on the right are just the things that I put in my upland pack. Just a short leash. I've got a water bottle with a nozzle on it so that she can drink out of that. Her collar. I've got some boots. I think I started off with 8 of them, and I'm down to 3 or 4 of them now. They tend to come off quite a bit unless you secure them really well. So now I just pretty much use them in case she's cut a pad or something, and use it more as a kind of like a first aid thing. And she's got a brush there, and then the first aid kit is just got a few items in there. There's some tweezers, there's some hemostats, there's some tape, there's some pads, gauze pads, and some vet wrap. And then there's some saline solution for, cleaning wounds or getting things out of the eye. That's pretty much all I carry just in my pack out in the field. I've got a bigger first aid kit in the truck.
Excellent. So Georgia, Joel, tell us, is there anything else that you guys use that Lon didn't address?
That's basically what we use, and just bumpers for training.
Yeah, Joel, tell us a little bit about e-collar, some of the something that people should be aware of when you're using an e-collar.
So the first picture when Lon was talking about the check cord and the e-collar, those are very important tools for pups. The check cord is, to begin with, for us, the most important. We teach them to come, we teach them to sit, we teach them, whatever commands, and if they don't, which they won't, they're pups, you can recall them, pull them back in, and then reinforce the fact that, hey, I said come, hang out and sit here with us. Then once they get pretty good at that, and that they understand the command that you're giving them, and they still refuse to, drop what they're doing and come see you, you can start introducing the e-collar. The e-collar, read up on it, take videos, talk to other trainers before you start using them, because you can ruin a dog very fast with an e-collar if used incorrectly, and you'll ruin them for life, basically. It's hard to, same thing with shooting around them, getting them gunshot. It's hard to bring a dog back that has not been started correctly. So spend a lot of time before you use that, learning how to use it correctly.
Well said.
Very, very effective and very safe tool for dogs.
Yeah. So Georgia, now it's your time. I don't know if you've ever done any used car salesman stuff, but now is the time to sell everybody on why go with a retriever. And so kind of narrate us through this video and tell us why someone should go with a retriever.
Well, in this video, I probably didn't start videoing until he was about halfway back. We sailed a sprig, and it was very alive by the time I got back. And by the time I would have gone out there, it would have found a tule patch, and I would have never been able to find it. I send the dog out. He's back before I can even get my gun ready and start walking out there.
Awesome.
So we recover game faster.
Excellent. Really good point. So you sailed a sprig. So for a brand new hunter, what does it mean to sail a sprig?
You wing it.
Yeah.
You hit it in the
Got
wing. It doesn't fall close to where you hit it. It kind of sails on the other end of the pond.
So without Yeti, you would be doing this.
Yes, that would have been a very long walk.
So have you ever gone past your waders while being out walking in a marsh like this? So
Yes, one time. I don't know why I don't have a dog.
Right. All right. So now it's your turn, Lon. Give us some reasons why you chose to go with a pointer and narrate the video for us.
I don't want to turn this into a dispute or a contest between the retrievers and the pointers. I've got some friends with some beautiful labs, and they do a great job. But having my first short hair at 17, I I got to where I just love to watch these dogs work. And when you can, when one of these dogs are, and a lot of times I'm hunting with friends where we've got 2 or 3 dogs in the field at the same time. When they come flying past you full speed and turn on a dime because they got downwind of a bird and stopped, like what we're looking at in this picture right here, I mean, it's just a great sensation. So this was another bird that she had pinned down, and I'm walking around in front of her, and I'm trying to tell my grandson that the bird is right there, and I think you can kind of see my hand pointing to where the bird was, and about that time, Rooster gets up and he shot it.
Outstanding. So you've got that advantage, and then what?
This is at a game club. That's why it's a hen. She's pretty young here. I don't think she's 2 years old. And if we had a video here, you would hear me, calling her. She hesitated there for a little bit, and I said, "Come again," and then I would tell her to hold. That way, she's going to hold that bird until she gets to me and make a handoff. She's going to hand it to me rather than drop it, because you drop one of those wounded birds, and then you got to catch them all over again.
I noticed that with both retrieving videos. I noticed that Georgia did that exact same thing. She didn't let that dog just drop that duck. But what's the command you guys give for that?
Hold is what I say.
Okay, very good. So let's talk a little bit about training a hunting dog. And I know there's so much we could talk about here, and we're just going to kind of scratch the surface tonight. Joel, narrate us through this video and explain what you're doing and why you're doing it.
So
I'll go ahead and play it.
This was on one of our younger pups. He was probably 4 or 5 months old at the time. And we're just doing your basic drill with him. He's the younger dog, like I say, have somebody out with a bumper. They throw the bumper. We tell the dog to mark. We have the dog sit and then release him on our command is back. He runs out and picks it up. Then it comes back. You'll notice that as I'm there on a younger dog, I start moving backwards to encourage him to come all the way through to me. And then I kind of stop abruptly, and then the dog's right there, ready to deliver the bird to you.
Yeah.
And the next step would be, go ahead.
I was going to ask, just, is that kind of a one size fits all for all dogs, or are you kind of modifying your training strategies to fit the dog?
So this dog is very closely related to Yeti. And he is one completely different to work with and get where we want him to be. So yeah, we modified. He quit running bumpers for us for about a month. And we were using all live birds. That obviously gets expensive. And it's, kind of a pain in the neck to go get a hold of live birds for him. So we let him sit for maybe a couple weeks, 3 weeks. We didn't do any retriever training with him. And then I think that's probably one of the first videos back, the first day we started working bumpers, and you can see he's back to charging after it and just so happy to, be doing his job again. But
Yeah,
he
outstanding.
on those live birds, he was all over them. But like I say, from a cost standpoint, that's a little tough.
Right. I think everybody has probably a horror story or 2 or 3 or 100 about dogs that are just misbehaving. And tell us why it's so important to have a well-trained dog. Lon, why don't you take that one?
Well, there's nothing worse than being out in the field and seeing a dog handler or hearing a dog handler just yelling over and over to at his dog. And that's why if you have a dog in the field, it should recall 100% of the time. So if you say come or here, that dog should come to you. Then you don't get the, guy screaming at the top of his lungs, to have that dog come back to him. I think in my case, hunting upland, if you have a dog that you can recall, so when you say here, it comes to you, and one other command, if you can get that dog to stop, quit moving its feet, the whoa command, pretty much you can turn that dog loose and let the dog do what it's bred to do, to hunt birds.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have a lot of other training. I mean, there's going to be some, obviously, but if you've got a dog and you can recall it and you can stop it, you can whoa it, then you're pretty much where you can take it out and hunt with it.
Outstanding. So let's work us through this video, Lon. What are you doing and why are you doing it?
Well, I don't remember exactly when it was, but looking at her, she looks pretty young there. So I'm going to say she's less than a year old. And we've already conditioned her to gunfire. And what we were trying to do was to keep her steady, which means not moving her feet, not moving until we shoot. So in this video, I pick up this, I'm not even sure what it was I was shooting at here, but I take the shot and you can see she's ready to go but then I give her the command to fetch and then she takes off.
Excellent. So, Georgia, I want you to take this one. I think you're the one that kind of dolled this dog up. And how important how important is it to have fun when you're training a dog, and not only for the dog to have fun, but for you to also have fun as a trainer?
You want to make it fun for the dog because you don't want them to hate what they're doing. If they hate it, they're not going to do it very well or barely do it at all. For us, it's a lot. I have a lot of fun in just watching the dog work, and I don't have to walk across the pond. But here we were in the refuge in a patch of tules, and he was on his dog stand, and he's so white that he sticks out. So my dad's like, you better cover that dog up. He's gonna start flying some birds. So I put anything I could have on him, and he's on this little box in the water, and I just told him to stay in place, and he didn't move.
Right on. I love it. So this kind of goes with the previous slide. Lon is talking about having your dog and you enjoy what you're doing. Work us through this and why are you doing this?
Well, this is almost an everyday thing for us. We take off on a bike ride and she gets in a little road work. I get in a little bit of exercise too. And then when there's water in the canal, which is most of the year, I bring a bumper and we spend, 10 minutes letting her chase bumpers and retrieve. And I can work on a few things with her here, although she pretty much does it the way I want her to do it. The cool thing is, and we might be able to see it as soon as she gets up on the bank, but you notice that her tail is wagging, so she loves to do this. So these are the things, if they love to do it, then you have the advantage there because you can easily work with them.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Joel, tell me about your dog's pre-hunt. What's their demeanor like? Are they begrudgingly like, oh yeah, I'll go out and do this, or are they fairly pumped?
They're extremely excited. I mean, you start loading the equipment and they know exactly, what they're doing. And boy, right now we have 3. The short hair he's an older dog. He doesn't get to go too much. But he especially doesn't get to go waterfowl hunting. And I mean, you can just see the poor look on his face when the labs get loaded and he doesn't get to go. So yeah, they are extremely excited to go and they know it's time and it's like they're all in.
Yeah. So let's talk. Lon, tell me about tapping into a dog's natural instincts, and how you can tap into their natural instincts with training. Work us through this slide.
Well, I'm not sure about tapping into their strengths, how I could even describe that. But in this video
Yeah.
here, this is the second day that this pup is in our house. And I just started throwing this toy and she started bringing it back to me, which that instinct is in the dogs. It's not something that you're teaching them. Retrievers, the labs, these dogs, they want to bring things back to you. And just like this dog wants to look for and locate birds in the field. So these are things that, I think after 2 years of training, quote, training my dog, I realized that I really haven't taught her all that much. It's mostly her natural instincts coming out, and doing it, the way that I want her to.
Yeah, really well said, Lon. So let's talk a little bit about dog training resources. Georgia, I know you're a college student, but are you a book person? What resources do you use for dog training?
Well, we used what I did. I bought DVDs. They're called Total Retriever by Mike Lardy, I think. Those are a little pricey, but they are very good. They go into depth about basics and also trying to refine casting drills like over and back, and then also force fetching, which is something the casting of force fetching was something we needed to work on because we've never done that.
Excellent. And how about you, Joel? How important is it to be around other people, and use other people as a resource for dog training?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, none of us are professionals. We're not even good at it. We just do the best we can, right? With the dogs that we have.
Mhm.
We've set a standard for what we want our dogs to do. And we've, spent a lot of time training into that standard. And those labs were new to us. I had a lab in the past. He was not very well mannered. He was good at what he did, but he wasn't well mannered. And I knew when our next one that we needed to up our game as far as to help him do what he does. And that's why we went down the path of looking for information. Georgia went and took him through the hunt tests, and being immersed in everybody else who's, testing at the time, we gained a ton of information just visiting, in between, runs for the dogs. So, a lot of good information was shared at events like that. That DVD that we found, that was incredible. They really break it down from the time that puppy gets home with you to the time that dog goes out and he's a finished dog. It's well worth spending some time and money to get information.
How about internet? Do you guys use internet resources? Is there like a go-to website you use, or like a YouTube channel or link that's helpful?
Yeah. I use all three of the things on that screen there. Books, right off the bat. Somebody had said, "Hey, you need to buy Gun Dog," and it's an old book, and it's got all the basics for an upland dog. And then I've got a couple friends that have worked. One of them worked with a trainer, and he had a short hair at the time, and then the internet. I listened to podcasts about training dogs yourself and that. So it's all important, and the information's out there. There was a point where I went to a trainer and took my dog there at about, I don't know, maybe 5 months old, and I had they said, well, we have a 30-day program. And I got to thinking about it. I didn't really want to be without my dog for a month. So I pretty much did everything on, myself. And again, I'm not a dog trainer, but the resources are out there if you look for them. And especially if you can find other people, somebody that's got some experience, you can get through it. I wouldn't be afraid to do it again.
Yeah. I love that perspective, just getting after it and trying new things and learning from multiple sources. Georgia, run us through this slide. And one of the reasons why we put this on here is just a tip for keeping your dog sharp. So basically kind of like ongoing training. What are we doing here, Georgia?
So this is mine and Yeti's very first hunt test before a year old. And we went into it blind. I had no idea what to expect. I thought he was good enough, kind of thing. We're just kind of going to see. It was local, so that helped make a decision. But in these hunt tests, they judge on how straight he goes to the bird, how well he marks the bird, how he comes back. If he comes back and he sits and gives it to you as you release it, he doesn't drop the bird. You're not allowed to touch the bird until you take it from his mouth, so you can't pick it up off the ground. So it was good experience. I don't know if I do it again. I probably just trained.
Let's see how he does.
Yeah.
So this is his first time doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Just a really good way to keep a dog sharp. I think having a little bit of competition helps us all, being around other people that know what they're doing.
The other thing, Eric, about this, we, didn't know anything about retriever training, so to speak. And this was, we went down, they have a set of standards that, you should have your dog, up to, which was fantastic. We didn't know. We weren't gonna breed them. We weren't into that at all. We just went down there to see, okay, are we way off base? Or are we kind of close? I mean,
Yeah.
it gets a pretty good judge of where he was at and what we needed to work on.
Yeah. So I'll just ask, it's not bragging if I ask. So how did Yeti do during this competition?
So he needed four runs to pass, or 4 ribbons to
legs.
4 legs to pass to earn a junior title. And we went to 4 and he passed all 4. So now he has his junior hunt title.
Outstanding. So I guess the moral to the story is your hillbilly training worked, huh?
We're doing something right.
I love it. Outstanding. So a question came in, somebody emailed this question about, can a dog learn multiple different species, like hunting types? I think this slide kind of shows that. What's your perspective on it? We'll go with you first, Joel. Talk to us about the picture off to the left.
Well, we were at a pheasant club with Yeti. I don't remember, what year it was or how much experience he had at the time, but these dogs, they're out there to do what they're bred to do, which is hunt and find birds that smell amazing to them. So yeah, you can, he'll go pheasant hunting, he'll go quail hunting. I mean, you could probably get him on rabbits. We try and keep him off rabbits, but you could probably bring him to go, hunt whatever you want these dogs to do. I mean, same with, Lon's dog. That is just, it's amazing. These dogs will do whatever you ask them to do because this is what they're bred for, that everything smells good to them. And that's what they know how to do best. So yes, you absolutely can train for anything.
Yeah. How about waterfowl for your dog, Lon?
Well, a guy had invited me to his club one time, and he says, "Hey, will your dog retrieve ducks?" And oh yeah. Well, she hadn't yet, but she was pretty solid as far as retrieving pheasants and planet chuckers. And so take her out there and we dropped a couple birds, and she swims past the decoys, swims right up to this duck, takes one whiff of it, turns around and comes back. I had to, there was something about the smell of it that she didn't like. So I had to put that bird in her mouth. And then once that happened, then it was game on. And we shot this blue goose here, and she went right out and got it. And now she loves to retrieve ducks.
Mhm. Love it. And yeah, so I guess to their point, like, I don't think Labradors, they're not necessarily known for being good quail dogs, but on the other hand, I've hunted around a lot of labs that make outstanding quail hunting dogs, and just a matter of keeping them close, but you could tell when they're getting birdie, and not quite like a pointer, but on the other hand, it's like they let you know where the birds are and how close they are. And so I guess it's pretty cool that because of their instincts, you can train them to hunt multiple species. Lon, talk to us about special considerations for hunting around a dog. Let's just say I'm brand new to hunting and you take me out and I'm hunting with you and Lottie. What do I need to know?
Well, first off, I'm going to tell you that don't shoot my dog. And the way that you don't do that is you don't shoot anything either on the ground or not up in the air high enough. We've had some birds that they're shot and they don't go down, but they're flying about 3 feet off the ground, and that's still a no-no to shoot at because the dogs are going to chase them down. So you have to be a little bit more patient, and I tell people that make sure you can see a little gap between the ground and the bird, where you see some sky there, so that the bird's up high enough. And if it's a kid or something like that, then I'm going to tell them that they can't shoot until I give them the okay. That's pretty much the safety consideration when you've got a pointing dog, is to not shoot anything low.
Right. I think that's probably a pretty cool advantage to hunting with a pointer, especially with kids. You can kind of prep that kid prior to getting to the bird. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, that's true. I do a lot of these. The state puts on these novice hunts, and sometimes they'll call me up and say, "Hey, we got a family coming out, and we need a dog handler." So I'm not actually hunting, but it gives me a chance to work my dog. So we'll go out and you meet some really neat people, and especially for kids. The difference between a bird flushing wild and him getting a quick shot and having a dog point a bird, and you can get that kid up there and get him in position and kind of have an idea which way the bird's going to fly and tell him to get ready, and that makes a big difference right there.
Yeah, love it. So is it true, Georgia, that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? What's going on in this video? Not necessarily hunting related, but narrate us through this.
Eddie is putting my horse away. Yeah, he loves to hold, basically, he'll hold anything I ask him to. He'll hold my phone, hold water bottle, anything. So he loves ropes. So I gave him my lead rope, and luckily the horse is good. And so he's leading him back to his pen.
Love it. So I noticed that horse is pulling back just a little bit, like, don't go so fast, Yeti. You're not my boss.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it kind of goes to a previous slide of just making things fun, and a dog will do anything. And also to the point of just establishing a bond with your dog. And once you've done that and just tapping into what they like to do anyway, man, I didn't know you could get a dog to take your horse and put him away. That's cool.
Now you do.
So it's pretty fascinating to know that the basic dog training principles that hunters use and tap into, that's the same kind of principles, training principles that we use with law enforcement dogs. I had canine Rusty as a partner for many, many years, and he loved to fetch. That was basically what he lived for. And so with just tapping into that natural instinct, um, he would search for literally all day long with the hopes that just one time I would throw that ball. And we train him for narcotics. We train him to sit and stare at any kind of odor we could train him on, bear, deer, quagga mussels, firearm odors. So to me, it's so cool to be able to tap into the dog's natural instincts and create a bond with them, and they'll pretty much do anything for you. So let's go into a little bit of the Q&A here. This is our final slide. These are some of the questions that came in. So I'll let you tackle this one, Lon. Is there anything that a newer hunter should be aware of when going out for the first time with their dog? That's a big, big question, but maybe you can just touch on a few things.
Well, the big thing that comes to mind is being able to bring that dog back, being able to recall it. When I brought my dog out as a pup, I made sure I had that 30-foot cord on it. That way I knew I could bring it back. So I would say that the biggest thing would be being able to recall, a dog if you're going out for the first time, because hunting dogs want to hunt, and if they don't come back to you, you're going to spend a lot of time looking for them.
Yeah, really good point. And Joel, can a person rent a hunting dog?
I don't think you can privately rent, a dog for the weekend or to go for a hunt, but there's a lot of pheasant clubs or private clubs that you can rent. You can go out, get a membership, and you can rent dogs. I know a couple local pheasant clubs that we've been members of. They had dogs for rent.
Yeah. And I know this is super subjective, but just roughly, just ballpark it, how much money is invested in getting a good hunting dog? Let's just say getting a pup. What would you say? Give me a ballpark, Joel.
You could probably spend anywhere from 500 to 5,000, depending on bloodlines.
Yeah.
And how much, what type of dog you want, and any one of those
Yeah.
dogs for you.
Let's just say you're a little bit on the cheap side, like yours truly. What do you think would be the lower end? You think like 500 to 1,000, you could get a pretty decent dog?
I think you could, yeah. I know
Okay.
some who spent that kind of money on kind of local dogs that they knew of that they could vouch for and say, yeah, that dog likes to hunt, and they've been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. What's the advantage of getting a higher end dog that has a better like bloodline? What would you say? What would you say a big advantage to that would be, Georgia?
He wants to do his job. You don't have to force it.
Yeah.
And even if you force it, it sometimes doesn't work out. We had a lab a couple years ago, and he was decent, but he hunted when he wanted to. He went and got the bird when he wanted to. So getting a dog that wants to do his job and loves to do his job is definitely a benefit.
And then how about you, Lon, on this question about how long does a hunting dog live? Just roughly. I know that's another subjective question, and would just give us a ballpark.
Well, I've heard people talk about their dog hunting, through 12, maybe even 13 years old. But that's getting up there for a big dog, and especially an upland dog that runs full speed, 20 miles every day. It's pretty hard for an older dog to do.
Yeah. So how about, when do you think a dog actually is in their prime? What would you say for that? How long does it take to get a hunting dog to be just absolutely prime condition and trained well? How about you, Joel?
I would guess probably 3 to 5.
Okay.
You get the experience on them. You do everything you can with pups, and then from that point on, it's just getting those dogs experience, and they learn very quickly as they go along and they get into different situations and figure out how to find the bird, how to stay on a bird.
Mhm.
I mean, you'll see some of these dogs that you bring them out to a field that for upland. You bring them out to a field where there's not a whole lot of cover. First thing that dog wants to do is go over and find the heavy cover and check that first. So that comes from
Yeah.
experience after they
Yeah.
spent all looking, and then they
Really
fall.
good point.
Yeah.
How old is Yeti? Is Yeti in his prime, Georgia?
He's 3, yeah.
Okay. Outstanding. And the last question, official question that I have written out is, how do I stop my dog from breaking as I go to shoot? Lon, you kind of addressed this in a slide, but give us a few more maybe tips on this. Is this a common question, you think?
Well, it's something that we strive for when we've got an upland dog on point, and I would imagine the same thing in a duck blind. You want that dog to not bolt, not break until you give it the command. That one little video you saw, Lottie as a young dog, she was pretty steady right there. So how you do it, I mean, it would be a matter of a check cord, and then a collar, and just keep working on them until they're good to go.
Yeah. I think one thing that I'd like to address just briefly with you guys is just the whole idea that a dog is not a machine, and they make mistakes, and learning that they're not perfect. What do you have to say about that, Lon? And just basically kind of how to deal with that.
Well, you're exactly right. It's not like owning a motorcycle or a four-wheeler where you start it and then you can put it away and forget about it. And as long as it's running, it's going to operate a certain way. They're animals, and just because it's been doing something in the field the correct way, for the last 6 months, doesn't mean it's going to do that every time. There's distractions. There's new encounters with things. So the training really never stops.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Georgia and Joel, I think you guys are going duck hunting tomorrow. What do you what are you going to do? What's your temperament going to be, or your mindset going to be, if heaven forbid Yeti breaks right when you shoot, or messes around somehow? And so how do you discipline that dog, or do you?
Oh, yes, for sure. And going back to the breaking for waterfowl specifically, that is important, as important to us as the recall for a dog, because most of the time it's out of pit blinds. You're sunken, that dog stands up, he's at your eye level. And if he takes off as the hunters start to shoot, that's very dangerous for the hunters, very dangerous for the dog. So that's a behavior that we will absolutely correct. Going back a little farther, one of the questions, what do you do with a new dog when you first come out? This young dog we have, it's his first year. And for the first 2 or 3 weeks of hunting, I was not shooting. I was working that dog, keeping my eye on that dog, letting the kids handle what they needed to handle. hit or miss, it didn't matter. I was there to keep that dog safe because they're not, they're not perfect. We keep them on a cord to begin with until we know that we can trust them. And that they will, even if they just, raise up a little bit, that's fine. That's better than charging across a blind, knocking barrels over and possibly getting, somebody injured or a dog injured.
Yeah.
So we will correct certain behaviors. Some behaviors, it depends on the experience and the age of the dog and whether or not that dog knows that that is a behavior that's not acceptable.
I think that's a really valid point. And you could tell, I think just like with a kid, you can tell when that, when that kid knows better, when that dog knows better. Some of that comes with experience. So I think with that, we're going to conclude the webinar. Joel, Georgia, and Lon, I just want to thank you guys so much. Thank you for volunteering to do this. And thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. And if we didn't get to a question tonight, I promise I'll respond via email. And then you can always reach out to me with any kind of question. Hunting regulation question, hit me up. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you. And good luck to everybody in 2025. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Take care.